This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. This is the show that gives you the information you need to make your next move a great one. I'm your host, Sean Dominski, and today I'm sitting down with Bobby Hulmes, associate broker here at RE/MAX Ace Realty, and we're going to talk a little bit about things that sellers should be doing to sell their home in this current market. So, Bobby, real quick, thanks for being here. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself for those who haven't seen our previous episodes?
Yeah, pleasure as always. Thank you. Well, I've been in the business 10 years now, selling real estate down in the trenches, full time. And, we've, when you talk about what you need to do to sell your home in this market, that isn't a defined set of, items on a checklist. It is constantly changing. So, little about myself. I'm an associate broker here at RE/MAX Ace Realty, just really looking to help people within our community buy and sell real estate and navigate through the many challenges.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so we have seen a little bit of a shift. So I was just doing a market update this last week. Everything's pretty similar to last year, just kind of 20% lower. So right. I don't know what your experience has been, but it seems like the market's slowing down a little bit. Now, what I have noticed is that for as much as the buyer demand has dropped, it seems like the amount of listings have also dropped. So it seems like, at least up until last month, with when the data came in, that prices were kind of still kind of stable. What have you been seeing as far as the market, what the market's doing right now? Longer days on market, more price reductions, less price reductions, as many, are the offers coming in over asking like they were for the past couple of years?
Sure. So good question. What's going on out there?
Yeah.
I think you are right on when you say that our market is stable. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's not all get into a panic here. What we're looking at, though, retroactively is data from settlements in June, July, August, early September. So folks that listed their home, dare I say, at the peak of the market, it's hard to explain to them in a listing appointment how the interest rates impact the value of their home. Because I tend to find that your average consumer looks at value as what they can afford monthly.
Right.
Okay. When we think about our bills, they think about what does my mortgage payment look like?
When they're getting pre-qualified, that they're getting qualified for a mortgage payment, not necessarily a purchase price.
Right. So that, purchase price may change as you move through, different townships, different counties, depending on your geographic location.
Yeah.
Taxes, HOA, those things are going to change what your monthly payment is. So a lot of folks look at like, okay, this is our max price that we're shooting for. Should we find our dream home, maybe we can stretch and come up to this price. So as, interest rates went up significantly, that really stuck a lot of folks in the mud. All right, so the market activity was significantly lower than in the early spring and late summer, of course. In the early spring, low interest rates, low inventory. Folks were just looking at their neighbors and saying, "Oh my gosh, they sold their home for this. Maybe I should list it for this." And they were listing it above what they even thought and getting that, if not more, which just then that's the problem. That the Fed was looking to control is the skyrocketing prices. So when I was going into a listing appointment, I was saying, listen, this is what homes sold for. Let's add 25, 50K onto it. And now I'm doing the opposite, because what we're doing is we're seeing, the fruits of those, of that market, the settlements. We're looking at that data. So,
right.
So, and I'd been in this scenario where I was sitting down with folks ready to list their home after we got over that peak, and they're saying, well, we saw this down the street sell for, XYZ. And I said, well, that's a different world now.
Right.
With the average selling price in Downingtown, it could be $700-800 more in their monthly payment. So that significantly impacts people's purchasing power. So the problem for those consumers now is that we had low inventory. That still continues. Mm-hmm. Folks had trouble finding a house they liked for, let's just say, $500K. Well, now their purchasing power has moved, down closer to the 4 range, and now they're really having trouble finding what they like, because anytime you move down in a 100K increment, the homes are going to look significantly less enticing.
Right.
So, folks are having to settle for a lot less than they had hoped for in the beginning of the process if they've been working with their agent for a while now.
So my question, and obviously this is just anecdotal because it's hard to really get in the minds of an entire market. Do you think with the interest rates going up that people are adjusting their house search to match their monthly payment, or are they putting their home search on hold? Because I'm actually wondering if, when every time the interest rates go up, if you're just going to see a drop in buyer activity, and then as they kind of mentally get used to it and kind of mentally realize, even though they can't afford what they want, they still want to move, sure, they're coming back into the market. So it almost seems like we might be seeing some buyers kind of come back into this new market, but slowly in a way. And obviously, every individual is going to be completely different. But from like a finger on the pulse type of standpoint, what do you think?
Sure. So as an agent and, trying to look at the market optimistically, people will always move. People will always buy and sell real estate. Right. Okay. Mostly during life changes, people are still getting married. People are still getting divorced. People still having children. They outgrow space, or they age to a point where it's time to downsize. So that will always take place, okay?
Well, anyone who was doing business back in like 2012, it's like, people are always still going to move because that was like the worst time to, no one wanted to buy property at that point.
Yeah, and positively for an agent that, is looking to continue growing in the career, already knowing that you need to weather some storms. It's a great time to gain market share as an agent, because we're seeing already hundreds and thousands of agents falling out of the business. Everybody seemed to jump on the bandwagon last year when they saw
the checks coming in.
Sold, right? So it looks so easy.
Yeah.
And some of the best agents do make it look easy.
Yeah.
Below the surface, though, is the challenges and trial and error, and the relentlessness of that agent to catch fish, you got to muck up the water.
Yeah, and I tell people it's not necessarily how many years an agent's been in business, but I do think how many market cycles they've been through.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's you're in the business or you're just in the market or another provider. But I think it's really important when you're seeing something like a market shift. You can compare it to your experience the last time this happened, or when this happened, or when you see the market go euphoric. You can kind of be like, this feels like what was happening back then, or it doesn't. And have some, and that kind of experience I think is really, really important. Now, obviously, it's not the most important thing. But I do think it can add a lot to have some sort of perspective of what's going on in the grand scheme of things.
For me, coming into the market as a new agent in 2012, I've not been through a large scale macro shift in the market that dramatically happened in a short period of time. I think that I was coming off of the tail end of the buyer market after the housing crash, and then starting my business through a balanced market, really.
That I would say 2012 to 2016, 2017, like in hindsight, obviously, it's like that was a really just stable, like it was just a good market. I felt like it. I mean, it was just
things were fair for both sides,
and it was just gradually increasing, but it wasn't like insane shooting up or dropping down.
So now of course, looking into a crystal ball, what's going to happen tomorrow? I'd be a lot wealthier man if I knew that, but. I believe that this turbulence is going to continue for a while because folks did stand still in the mud for a bit as interest rates were shooting up there. Some of them, if they were hell bent on buying a home, they've continued through it, and maybe they found one and their interest rate's higher and they had flexibility to make that payment. And I've worked with folks that they were buying a home because they've got the motivation behind them to, fight.
Right.
To fight through that.
I've worked with buyers who just said, we have to move. Like, there was a buyer where it was partway through our home search, something significant happened in his life. And I was like, hey, if you have to take a break, like, I don't want to, because he was a friend of mine. I was like, I don't want to keep talking business if you have to take a break. He's like, Sean, we need to move either way. Yeah. So that's when I was like, okay, he's serious.
And then regionally, folks do seem to buy seasonally. Yeah. So that's why it's busy every spring. It's usually busy every fall, and then it cools off a bit. Come around 4th of July time, I believe we've talked before about this, folks start going to the beach. Yeah. And then right now, folks are starting to pinch pennies for the holidays, especially in an inflationary market. So, in holiday parties and
the busyness of the holidays.
It's a lot. I believe there'll be a resurgence, early spring again this year. But the problem that remains is we still have very, very low inventory. So, especially if rates dip down, there's going to be this big demand push again, and folks are going to be in the same situation where there's, homes that are the hot property that's priced well. They're going to sell fast for asking price, if not more. And I'm seeing that right now because we are so low of inventory. There's homes that they've listed and have been on the market because they looked at what things sold for in July, and they're overpriced. And continually, folks are waiting for the new house to pop on the market, and there's this big surge of competition on it. And if it's priced accurately, it will sell. Yeah. It might not have 20 offers, but it still might have 2 to 5, and those folks are going to win because if we sat in the spring, we talked about pricing your home. I would say let's throw on a couple extra bucks and see if we can get it. Now, I think a strong strategy is to underprice and try to create that competition because folks in that price range, they're going to look at your home and you want to create that demand. That's I think part of your job as a good listing agent. And, if you've ever bought anything on eBay, sometimes, competition can fuel folks to pay a little bit more because they want to win the bid. So,
and they've already invested so much into it where it's a lot easier to walk away from a house that you haven't even gone and seen, haven't driven by, from a photo on a website as it is to a house that you've already walked through and taken a look at, fallen in love with, and now maybe not a bidding war, but now you're sitting there trying to figure out what kind of concessions you're going to make, and you're that much more vested into it. So getting those people in and through is going to help that seller.
Additionally, the after the refinance boom that we saw last year, many folks are sitting on a lot of equity in their home and a 2.5% to 3% interest rate. So, because prices have remained stable, if they don't have to move, they're probably not going to. They're actually probably feeling a little bit stuck in their home for a bit because to move up, they're going to have to still pay a lot, and then the interest rates are higher. So, it's going to be a significant jump in their mortgage payment. But does that really change the type of home they're able to move to? I don't know. I don't think so. So to make a lateral, it may be a lateral move. Is it worth the cost of moving and, a bird in hand?
Mm-hmm. So you think actually the refi boom is going to kind of lock people in their houses a little bit longer and kind of slow down the amount of listings hitting the market?
When I try to relate things to myself, and and me and my family were sitting in a home. We bought it, in a kind of a perfect window in 2020, right before things got out of hand.
Yeah,
and we're at a 3% interest rate, so. It doesn't, I guess I missed the opportunity to refinance even lower, but I think the days of that 3% are gone for a while. So unless there's some significant, macro event that, we can't predict. So for me, I'm just going to sit back. I can't really even do much with that equity right now, just to pull out an equity line. I'm still going to have a high interest rate on that. So for somebody like me, we're just going to sit tight for a while and see how things recover. And I do believe, what goes up goes down and vice versa. So, looking historically, homes should continue appreciating and rates should get more affordable. So I think a lot of folks feel like I do. They're just, hey, listen, we don't really need that additional square footage. We don't really need, X, Y, Z. So we're okay with what we got, especially in an environment where, there's so much talk about recession looming in the air. So
another topic, now my favorite topic, marketing. So when homes are flying off the shelf and they're getting sold within hours of the sign hitting the ground, doesn't really leave much room for any kind of marketing. Do you think that how a property is marketed is going to become more important as things start to move, as we shift into a different market?
Sure. Well, things were certainly flying off the shelves this spring, and I think, and I fell into this trap too, where I felt like once you got a listing, that you could almost count that as a paycheck. You just put the sign in the yard, somebody's going to buy it because the competition's so high, the rates were so low. So I think that we shift into a more service-oriented industry, which is the backbone of being a real estate agent, and folks are going to start to pay attention to those little extra things. Are you helping them? Are you explaining things? Are you providing, quick and timely communication? When I'm sitting down with my folks, if I don't sell their home quickly now, that I know that they're upset because this other agent sold their home in 30 seconds several months ago. But the world is different now, and I understand this maybe a little bit better than they do because I live it every day. But so I try to focus my attention to the service aspect. What can I do to help you? Help you get your home ready. Can I help you get a cleaning service? I just helped somebody move a piano with my trailer the other day. That was sometimes you got to watch what you say when you're sitting at the closing table. I said, hey, listen, I got a trailer. If you need something to move, yeah, sure. Let me move this piano. It's got to be tonight,
Oh, great.
And we're taking it, all the way across the region. So,
and for the record, that's not an offer to move people's pianos.
Anything's negotiable here.
Anything's negotiable.
As an agent, you got to be flexible here and earn your ducats where you can.
There you go.
So, I do think there will be an emphasis on the service aspect of it. Marketing is still, the top real estate coaches that I've listened to have explained to us and I believe in Gary Keller's book, Shift, he explains that you're to make cutbacks in ways that you may spend in an appreciating market and cut back where you can to cut costs because, the future is somewhat unpredictable. So,
but as far as marketing a listing, though, I mean, what kind of steps do you think can be cut? I mean, obviously it depends on the listing.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be the more sellers should be prioritizing when it comes to their listing?
Well, the things that I would say really have not diverged very much from no matter what the market is. It's spend your, folks are like, oh, should we redo the kitchen? Should we redo this bath? At this point, when I'm sitting in the living room, it's too late for all those things, to make capital improvements. I can't say if you spend $7,500 to refinish this bathroom, are you going to get $7,500 back? I don't know. So I'm always looking for low cost, easy to do ways to make the property more appealing. Have it focusing as much attention as possible to the front photo of the house, the curb appeal. Okay, because that's what's ultimately going to get people to stop in their tracks and look at your home.
It's crazy because 20 years ago that was obvious because all you had was that picture in the real estate book. But now with the internet and aerial video and Google Maps, there's still something about curb appeal.
Absolutely. Now we shop much differently. We don't use the book. We don't rely so much on the agent to provide the listings because folks can find those things themselves with all the, consumer tools out there. But photos do sell.
Yeah.
And, photography day, I think, is the most important day. When I'm laying out the steps for folks, okay, what should I do? What kind of timeline should I follow? I say, look, photo day is what you need to worry about. Okay, well, what do I do with all my stuff? I say, look, clear everything off the counters. Let's take the photo and then put it back on the counters. That's more important to me than showing day because once the folks get in the house, they're going to understand that you live here.
Right.
They're going to understand that you need your coffee maker there, right? So, but we want to get them in the door to make them fall in love. Okay, we don't want to present a product that is going to make them skip to the next one because it's the folks are coming to the property thinking that they're already going to bid on it. So when you're able to create that emotional attachment before they've even been to the property, I mean, you've done your job as a listing agent marketing the property. So I try to go all out. I do a 3D virtual tour, help folks maybe gain a bit of an edge in the market by being able to tour the property before it's even shown.
Yeah.
I'm going to do, of course, aerials. I'll actually shoot. I have a cinematic camera that I'll shoot a live tour through. Now, I've seen 3D. I've seen movie tours before, and they're either panning around.
Yeah.
It's really a collage of moving photos. So I actually tour the property with my camera, and I'm opening closets and opening pantries and touring it like an actual consumer, and that can give somebody a huge advantage. So I want to get everybody there, and somebody's going to love the property. That's my job, is to get foot traffic. So if I tell a person what their home's worth, sometimes it goes in and out. Let's let the market tell them what their home's worth through feedback, and following up, with market updates. If I have a Mickey Man, I use this reference all the time, but if I have a Mickey Mantle card and I tell people it's worth, $100,000, well, it's worth what it will sell on eBay for. So that's the market speaking value. So my job is to get people in the door and let them tell the sellers what the home's worth. Now we're going to have a pretty good idea from that first day of showings what the property's worth, and I can even dip my toe in the water during the coming soon stage.
Yeah.
If other agents and brokers that are receiving these exclusive listings that the consumer does not yet see and calling me about it, that I know that I'm on to something.
Yeah.
So yeah, front of the property. For photo day, you don't need the property necessarily clean. You just need it tidy. Nobody's going to be doing the white glove test. So that's where some people get overwhelmed. They say, oh, well, I have to clean the tub and the toilets. And not just yet. Just get it tidy. Start shoving things in closets. Start packing things. And I say get packing right away. Because if you're this serious that you're going to list your home for sale, you're moving.
Right.
So let's start packing. Because So many folks, they sit back and go, oh, let me wait for my home to sell. And then the moving process is so overwhelming because no matter how much stuff you have, you don't realize how much that you really have collected. And then it fits into this small window of time where, your logistics, maybe you're buying another home and it's just, there's too much to do. And you have to keep showing strong performance at your job if you're buying, so get packing. Yeah. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, storage unit, not a bad investment for this period too.
Absolutely.
Because that's the other thing too. It's like you got to tidy up, get rid of the clutter, just put it somewhere. But at the same time, people want to see all the storage that's available in the basement. Yep. And you walk down there and you're like, well, there's more basement, but they've put a whole bunch of stuff there as a
and
showing
that's
agent.
how I've done it, and that's how I recommend people do it. Start putting it in a storage unit because for me to carry this box all the way down to the basement, and, pack it away. Well, I could carry it back up in only a month when I sell my home because when I sit down in the living room, my goal is to sell your home in the first 2 weeks of it being listed. So, get it out of here.
Yeah,
move it along. Now I understand. They may not know where they're going yet, so that's where this. Just getting a central. Located storage unit, it's going to pay dividends.
Nice, cool. All right, so I think that helps. It gives us an overview of the market, what you're seeing, and what sellers should be thinking when they go to list. Anything else or that you would want to add to that?
Yeah. No, just have faith that, things are, your home's still going to improve in value. If you're buying and you're paying a high interest rate, we're sick of hearing the phrase, marry the house, date the rate, right?
Yeah.
If rates go down, no problem. You can refinance. Trust that, we are currently still in a stable market. Okay. So there's no time to panic, and we're seeing rates decline. The most since they have in 2019 over the last 4 weeks. So there's, I think, a lot of optimism, and I believe we're going to have this resurgence, especially after the holiday.
Yeah.
So, buckle up. It's going to be a maybe bumpy ride, but it's going to be a wild one for sure.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, man. What's the best way if anyone has any questions or want to work with you? What's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Sure. Easiest way is to call me at the office here. 484-712-0009, RE/MAX Ace Realty. Ask for the Bobby Hulmes team, or you can email me at homesweethulmes, HULMES @gmail.com.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.